call this number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
What's up, one and all? Welcome to World of the Unexplained. This is your host, Jay Scott.
And this is Trent Lackey on a bleak and dreary October afternoon in Curtisville, North Carolina.
It's cold and rainy.
It is cold and rainy. It's probably my favorite kind of weather ever.
It's awful.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that.
Yeah, well,
you want like sunshine all the time. And
I just want it to be like Jamaica.
Budweiser and girls in bikinis.
Okay, the girls in bikinis, I'll take the Budweiser. Nah,
That's true. Guinness.
that'll work.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Can we say those specific beers?
Sure we can.
Guinness.
Sure we can.
Red Stripe. Actually, I like Red Stripe. I'm not really crazy about
Stripe's
Jamaica
good.
weather, but I really like Red Stripe a lot.
Red Stripe and Jamaican weather and girls in bikinis make for a
See,
very
I like
cool trip.
I like Red Stripe and maybe Iceland kind of weather, and maybe girls in furry clothes.
Yeah, you're weird. Anyway, as I was saying. Tonight
Yeah,
is
Sweden.
today is October 12th, 2009.
One day away from
2009.
13.
Yeah, but it won't be a Friday.
I know.
October
I just
13th. Yeah, I
felt
know,
like
it just kills it all, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does.
Oh well. Anyway, tonight we have with us Justin Blair, who is going to be coming on shortly, and we're going to be talking about him and a friend of his, Matthew Vincent. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, I think that's right. I'm not looking at anything. See how good I am? Look at that.
Yeah, and you're not. You know what? I haven't seen you do any drawings lately.
I haven't been doing any drawings. I've just been in the zone. But yeah, Matthew Vincent and Justin Blair did this film together in Romania, and we're going to let them tell you all about it. But it's cool because it deals with vampires,
It's pretty awesome.
and werewolves, and dwarves, and all kinds of neat stuff. So, yeah, when dwarves used to walk.
Yeah, dwarf. Yeah.
Yeah, so it well, you just can't
You
see
know,
them
like
now.
the mythical, not the.
And they don't walk anymore. They crawl. Okay.
What is that word? What is? We're not actually talking about. What the heck is that medical condition called? You know, dwarfism and gigantism.
Oh, it may be dwarfism. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It has nothing to do with anything that we're going to talk to. But the tallest man in the world and the shortest man in the world, apparently, up to this point, are both from the same country.
Really?
I'll give you like one guess, and
Yugoslavia.
no, Mongolia.
Oh, well, there we go. That was my next one.
Yeah, like I said, it had nothing to do with anything. But we need to.
What's the capital of Mongolia?
Ulaanbaatar.
Okay, there we go.
But anyway, let's. But this is a pretty excellent bit of filmmaking, and we're really excited to talk about it. We're real excited to have these guys on.
I saw something yesterday, and I don't remember what it was, but it had something to do with something we do on the show, and I was going to make sure I brought it up, and now I don't remember what it was. I should have wrote it down or something.
Well, maybe you'll spontaneously remember it.
Yeah, maybe.
Sometime on the break. Yeah, it's usually when those ideas.
I do want to say that
reemerge.
Hugh, we're really upset we didn't get our invite this year to the Playboy Mansion for the Halloween party. I'm still looking in my mailbox. There's still time.
I had a perfect outfit too.
There's still
you know?
time, Hugh. You can still send that to
Yeah.
us. P.O. Box 194, Kernersville, North Carolina, 27284. We are still looking. We'll be there, buddy.
Yep.
You know, you send us the invite. We'll be there at the grotto.
I was going to dress up like Doctor Who. That'd probably.
Doctor Who, yeah, there we go.
Tom Baker, Doctor Who.
Okay.
You know, not Peter Davison.
Okay.
For the people who know who Doctor Who is, but you know
Yeah.
the typical Doctor Who with the big hair and the scarf.
I have no idea what I'm going to dress up like this year. No idea at all.
I got a couple ideas.
I did the Ghostbuster thing one year, the priest thing one year.
Yeah, I was Julius Caesar one year.
I remember that. I remember the
was a
year.
good one.
That was the year I was Elvis.
Yep, that was a fun one. And then
was
there was
fun.
a very interesting point that one party where I dressed up like the devil.
I remember
And somebody
that.
else dressed up like Jesus.
Yeah.
That was a very strange scenario. For
Yeah,
that
when
party.
people dress up like Jesus for Halloween, it just
it was a little odd.
just a little sacrilegious.
Yeah, well, it totally is.
It just kind of like
Dressed
dress up like the
the
devil's
devil.
fine.
Well, you know the thing about Halloween is like it's the season of the year where you get to mock
Yeah,
what is evil and,
yeah,
wicked
exactly,
and death
you're-
and fear, and you mock it by imitating it.
Exactly. So when you do the Christ thing, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's like Bullet Train to Hell stuff. You know,
I mean, that's my whole theory. That's
this guy I used to know that worked for me years ago. I'm not going to mention any names because first of all, I don't remember his name. But he had a tattoo of Christ, you know, praying, and he was telling me to finish the tattoo that you know, he was going to have a tattoo of Lucifer above that, like smacking him in the face. That was his exact words. I'm like, that's bullet train to hell kind of stuff there, buddy. Yeah, you don't want to mess with
that'll
that.
really get him a lot of jobs, too.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
really opens the employment line.
You hate Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, you're hired here at the any kind of profession in North America, South
Especially
America.
in the South.
Or pretty much anywhere in the United States. I'm trying to figure out where exactly.
in the South.
You know, because, I mean, even if you're like a Muslim, it's like, wait a minute, you're not going to profit. Or the Jews would say the same thing. You know, I mean, no matter where he goes, he's going to be like...
Okay, when did this become a liberal show?
Well, no, that's not a liberal issue at all. It's just a theological one.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, email your comments to worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com or call us at our special 1-800 number, 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-YOU2. That's toll free in the United States and in Canada. So you can pick up the phone and call. You know, you can call us.
We'd like to hear you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Raise the roof. You know what I mean?
You didn't say that, did you?
I just did.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm ready to raise the roof. Where is he? The senator. More Chuck for the buck, guys. That's our latest email 3 minutes ago. Chuck is...
Where is Chuck?
Chuck is, you know, he bought him a new house, so Chuck has been kind of moving stuff in there, and, well, you know, he's kind of slack anyway. So he is, you know.
Well, I mean, and he's got a lot on his plate now with the new house.
Yeah. And he got promoted at work, too.
He did?
Yeah.
That's excellent. I got not promoted, really.
Yeah, I can't get promoted.
No,
I own
everything.
Can
promote yourself. You should promote
I just
yourself.
give myself new titles all the time.
You should.
Today I am master of the universe.
I am Grand Archpatriarch
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
of the Eastern domains.
But, you know, what do you do at that point? Anyway, but like I said before, got a really cool movie, excuse me, I said video. Really cool movie, great filmmaking, excellent stuff. We're going to bring on Mr. Justin Blair. How you doing tonight, Justin? What's going on, man?
Hey, doing great.
That's a really awesome movie. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Now, what's Matthew Vincent, what's his role in all of this?
Well, to kind of give you a background of how the whole thing started.
Yeah, and tell me which one you are.
I am Justin Blair.
Well, I know that. I mean, what do you look like? Who's the guy with the ponytail with the long hair?
That is the other guy.
Okay, and so you're the guy with the short hair.
I'm the short hair guy.
Okay, now I've got the mental image. Okay, go ahead, continue, please.
Matthew and I were friends down in Florida before all this started. He had worked a little bit in film. He had tried writing some screenplays and was trying to do an independent production himself. I was over in Romania before all this started doing archaeology for the summer, and I really kind of fell in love with the place, the people, the folklore, all the stories. I came back, and he had the film equipment, basically. And I was thinking of going over there, trying to write a book about these things, and he said, you know, I already have the film equipment. Why don't we go ahead and document this, make it into a documentary? If it doesn't work out in terms of a documentary, then you already have the source material, and you can take that source material and write the book. So that's how he kind of came into it. He had an interest in Romania, not so much from having been there before, but he was a gymnastics fan, actually. Nadia Comaneci is a big name, I guess, in gymnastics. And that's why he kind of had this fascination with Romania. So we came to Romania from two different paths there.
He wanted to meet chicks, and you wanted to tell history.
Something like that.
Oh, cool. So how long? You said there's 7 months, I believe, so it's in the bio.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was on two separate occasions. Like I said, in 2003, I had been over there. I was going to the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, and went over there and did archaeology.
I know UF. I went to law school in Florida, in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, Florida Coastal.
I've been to Jacksonville many times.
Yeah, I used to live there.
We went back in the end of 2005, I think it was, for about 3.5 months. Came back to America. We shot all the footage at that point. Then came back to America, worked for a while, got some resources together, then went back to Romania for about a little over 3 months again, and that was in 2006, I think, summer 2006, and started doing all the translation and all the editing and all that, and then finally just a few months got the movie out there and pressed. It's a long haul if you're gonna produce an independent documentary, but if you have the patience, it doesn't take a great deal of money these days in terms of just the equipment to do it.
Well, yeah. I have a friend that I went with to Sleepy Hollow, New York. We were doing one on the Headless Horseman. And we've got about probably 6 to 9 hours of footage we're trying to put together. He's done a couple documentaries before. And when I saw your documentary, I'm like, yeah, I know exactly some of the stuff this guy went through.
Right.
But the language barrier, now, I'm assuming that you're the one that translates this because of your archaeology experience and things of that nature?
No, the Romanian, to give your listeners just a little background on that, Romanian is a Romance language, so it's similar to French and Spanish, Portuguese. Basically, Roman soldiers invaded what used to be called Dacia, which is now part of Transylvania, and they left their language there to some degree. The problem is it's surrounded by Slavic countries and the Hungarians and Magyars, so there's all these different influences into the language. Well, I did not pick up the language at first, so I knew a few professors from my trip previously over there, and they helped us out by supplying us some graduate students to go out with us into the field and actually kind of conduct the conversations, whereas we were leading the questioning to some degree during the interviews, but the language barrier was still there. So while we were filming a lot of these stories, I had some background in French and some Spanish and all that. I could understand a little bit of it, but it was generally after the interview when we would talk to the translator before we even, we didn't know what we had until we talked to the translator a lot of times. So,
yeah, that's true. And the other thing is, I mean, what you're talking about, the subject material is not, hey, I'm ordering a drink at a bar, or any kind of, any standard conversation you would have anyway. It's
right.
like a specialized word.
These beliefs that exist still in the vampire, the werewolf, the strigoi, vokalach, they're beliefs that are out in the countryside largely. So just like in America, you have different accents. Someone from New York City is going to speak differently than somebody, I live down in rural Texas now, northern Texas. There are different accents. I grew up in Kentucky, a different accent. So it's the same thing there. We had to translate a kind of countrified Romanian. Yeah. And for Romanian people to watch the movie, it's kind of interesting because they enjoy that aspect of it.
Huh. And, oh my gosh, I had a question about this.
I had a question about what you guys were drinking when the car broke down there.
Good eye. That's something called palinka, or Tsuika. That was actually palinka, the stronger variety. But the Romanians, and everywhere in Eastern Europe, probably everywhere in the world. I'm from Kentucky, so people make their own liquor, all around the world. And the palinka is the variety there. It's made out of plums. Sometimes the really bad stuff is made out of corn. But it's ubiquitous all throughout the countryside. You always are seeing palinka. When we would go into these villages, tiny villages, really remote places to conduct these interviews. And one of the things they're proudest about, they want to show you the Orthodox Church, and they want to show you the moonshine still.
Well, they go hand in hand,
They really do sometimes. So
that makes sense.
That was our translator taking a swig off the bottle, and I tried to stay relatively sober throughout my travels, but unfortunately, in the line of duty, sometimes you had to drink some moonshine with the villagers to kind of
get the stories out.
Well, no, I mean, and also to say, okay, they're offering you something, so you have to be respectful
polite,
and take them.
Exactly,
So
you really do. I started at some points. I would just say, my liver is bad. I have a medical condition. I can't.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, I mean, if you take that first drink, they're going to continue.
Oh yeah.
So, but for the most part, we suffered through that one, and it worked out.
Go ahead, Trent.
Well, I was just an offhand comment about the stories that they would say, the more Tsuika that they would drink. it would become more, I don't know, did become a little less
more colorful,
more colorful, less coherent, or
we actually had to deal with that aspect of it. We ended up shooting over 40 hours of footage.
Oh my gosh!
And we had to go through it and make sure, in terms of the methodology of making the movie, we wanted to make sure that we didn't just have, we didn't want crazy people, people who were just had a break with reality in a major long-term way, and we didn't want to have people who were just telling stories because they enjoyed storytelling, or because they had maybe one night stumbled out and gotten too drunk and had seen something, And surprisingly, we did not have to deal with that too much. I mean, these beliefs in the paranormal and the supernatural, these go back a long, long way. This is something more, this is internalized to the culture. So we didn't have to weed through a lot of that, actually. For the most part, when you actually sit down with someone in their house, you got the sense pretty quickly if this was going to work or not. And so all the stories in there in the film, I tend towards skepticism about a lot of the paranormal, but I keep my mind open about it. I can say this, the people in the movie really did have those experiences on some level, whether it's objective reality or it was their subjective experience. We wanted to make sure we, made a movie with stories where the people were definitely telling the truth there, in their own version of truth, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, and that's one of the things that was very interesting to me. The things that they would talk about, like just some of the things.
We'll get into that here in a second.
Just how how believable. Like I saw a strigoi outside and whatever, and it was just like he could have just as easily said, I went shopping the other day and bought a shovel. I mean, just how not shocking, not, oh my gosh, I saw this amazing thing. It was just so common, and how calm and collected these people seem to be, in general.
Well, it's
that's
part
what
of their,
interesting.
It's part of their culture. I'd say it tends to be, especially in the rural areas, Eastern Europe is relatively poor compared to the Western Europe of the United States, and a lot of these beliefs, there isn't so much skepticism there. These people grow up with that. Now, I should say, and I always like to say, that Romania, I don't want to stereotype the country in terms of this place where, people are running around with wooden stakes trying to kill vampires. It's not.
Oh, come on.
That is. I know, I really probably should go that route, but it's not.
You're not going to sell as many DVDs this way. You know that, right?
Romania's crawling with vampires.
You've got to make room for the sequel. You've got to have enough for this.
But we were in Cluj, and Cluj-Napoca is where we were kind of based out of. It's a very modern city, a lot of universities.
Where did you guys stay when you went to some of these really rural towns? Where did you guys stay in the night?
Well, what we did is based ourselves in Cluj-Napoca, so we rented an apartment there, and then we would go out from the city into these kind of expeditions into different river valleys and different parts up in the mountains. We tended to stay wherever we ended up when it got late. The way we traveled, we walked from village to village a lot of times. We sometimes got lucky and found little minibuses. There were people called sharks who are kind of like unauthorized taxi drivers. It's a different setup there. The infrastructure isn't there, so people. Hitchhiking is fine, in that country. It's not considered dangerous. It's not a problem. And we felt by getting down, going to that level, traveling in that way, traveling with the people we were trying to understand and film, that, we can make a better movie. So a lot of times we would end up talking to maybe a priest in a village or just some family in a village, and they would say, we have an extra room, just stay here for the night. It's no problem. Sometimes we'd find little kind of like motels. It was very random the way we stayed out in the countryside, but everybody was extremely cordial, extremely friendly, and without that spirit of the Romanian people, we wouldn't have been able to have made the movie.
How big of an apartment did you guys rent?
It was right. Do you know the Eastern Europe kind of got leveled during communism, and they blew up a lot of the old parts of the cities, and they built those giant concrete monster apartments that, I don't know if you've been over there or seen that, but they're really ugly.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're horribly
blocks.
ugly.
So we stayed in one of those right next to the city center. It was actually pretty large. It was cheap to live there.
Well, that's what I was asking about. I mean, was it very expensive to live there for that length of time?
No, the dollar went a long way.
Even in this Obama economy?
Well, this was pre that.
Do what?
This was pre.
Oh, that's right. This was what? 05. My bad.
Yeah, 05, 06.
Yeah. But that's great. That's
a
awesome.
lot of times those complexes would have they'd be very self-contained, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it is that way now after the fall of the Iron Curtain, but you'd have your apartment, and then you would have stores and things within walking distance of the apartment, and it was all a little pre-constructed community.
Communal way of living. Yeah. Romania was, the communist regime under Romania was really, really harsh. There was this may or may not be true, it's kind of apocryphal, but supposedly there were more phone taps than there were actually phones during Ceausescu's reign. So the walls were left thin a lot of times because, there was every citizen spied on every other citizen in a lot of ways. Yeah. There were so many informants. So it was, the other thing about living there was you don't control your own heating or cooling. It's controlled from a central location.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That doesn't always work out so well, but.
Well, listen, we're gonna take our first 5-minute break of the night, Justin. If you'll hang with us here just for a second, you're listening to World of the Unexplained. We're gonna when we come back on, we're gonna talk about what some of these stories are and get into some details of some really, really crazy stuff. You guys don't want to miss this. Send us an email, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com, or give us a call and talk live with us and Justin Blair tonight at 877-722-7382. That's toll free in the U.S. and Canada, 1-877-SCARE-U2. This is Jay Scott. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. We'll be back after this.
And we're back, World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have Justin Blair, one of the duo that produced the film Across the Forest. I don't know why
you can check that out at www.acrosstheforest.com, and you can buy stuff there too.
Oh yeah, I don't need to do that. Give us a call, 1-877-722-7382, or 336-996-1596 if you're locally oriented, and or give us an email at worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com. Justin, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, excellent. Before we got in the stories, there was one last little bit about Romania. I just was curious. Romania has a reputation sometimes, at least government-type people, of not being the most, how do we say, honest. Did you have trouble, lugging film equipment around, getting through customs, having some bureaucrat say, "Oh, well, no, you need to pay me some money before you can get up this road"? Any kind of political, governmental problems?
Gotcha. That's a great observation. A lot of that that idea rests in two different places. Obviously, pre-89, when it was communist, I mean, you couldn't even. It was very difficult to even travel there if you're from the West. Then it actually that aspect helped this film in a lot of ways, because now people are very eager to speak on these topics of the supernatural, but also any and everything. So it helped with the filming. Another part of that idea is based on immigration from Romania to Western Europe, and there are different ethnicities in Romania. So we dealt with Romanians, which make up the majority. There are Hungarians, there are some Saxon communities that speak a kind of old version of German. There are also Roma communities. A lot of Roma tend to not exactly pay attention to borders. It's part of their culture.
Right.
And they've gone to Italy, and there have been political problems there and social problems there. So some of that reputation, I think, stems from that concept. The only thing we had, we were filming out of a train once, and out of the window to try to get some just footage of moving. And the train conductor, the little guard guy came up and said, "You can't do that. You're filming on state property." And we said, "Okay, that's fine. We're just, we're really." He was from the old guard. He was an older guy. He'd obviously kept his job for a long time. It's like he hadn't realized that things had changed. Because Romania is trying to court tourism. It's a beautiful country. It's a really friendly country. This guy wasn't quite with how things had changed. So we put the camera up. It was no big deal. We got the footage we needed, and it is. We made the mistake of buying a second-class ticket for some reason. I let my friends convince me that was a good idea. It was like $8 difference or something. And it's unheated, it's cold, we're freezing, and there's this concept of the Nashul. It's, maybe you talk to the train guy and you give him a couple extra dollars, and he lets you sit up front. It's no big deal, That goes on. It's part of, it's to some degree part of the culture. I mean, it's a long history there. The Turks came in and ruled for a long time. They have a Romanian word. It's Turkish origin, bashish. Maybe you pay somebody a little extra money, give them a little gift, and you get to sit up front in the train, or you get to, they wave you through customs or whatever. It's very different. It's a difference for Americans and from people, from Western Europe, maybe to get that idea, but that also wasn't there as much as I thought it would be.
That's true. That seems to be a common occurrence sometimes in Eastern Europe, and it may just be a cultural thing. We would call it a bribe.
Sure.
They would call it something else, like it's a product of the informal economy. Let's just call it that. That'd be a nice academic version.
Under communism, that's the black market was the capitalist market in a lot of ways. I mean, everything was ran by the state, so if you wanted to make money other ways, you were labeled the black market economy, and that had negative aspects to it that still carry through, but in a way in a weird way there were positive aspects to it also. So
very strange. I just wanted to cover that before we actually started to talk about the movie in detail.
Well, let's talk about the movie some. When you I see you speaking to this older woman, and she's talking about killing this strigoi, or this vampire. I guess that would be the better translation. It's just amazing. Just sitting there on their couch talking to you about killing a vampire when she was younger and much braver.
Just like, oh, it's no big deal.
I mean, what were you thinking when you? I mean, you apparently you'd heard enough of these stories that they didn't. It wasn't a big deal.
That one blew my mind a little bit.
Okay.
I was really happy. Now, I think I know the story you're talking about in particular. I was on the camera. That lady had, a dozen cats inside the house, and she's just, older, she's a grandmotherly type lady, and she brought us in. She was so nice. She gave us this little apple pie type thing to eat. She's like, "Are you cold? Are you doing all right?" She sits down. She starts talking, and once again, I didn't have the language ability to understand everything she was saying during the interview, but I'm looking at Marius, who's a translator, and he's got this look on his face, and I think, okay, I talked to him afterwards, and he tells me, this lady, in her youth, she actually pierced the heart of this corpse with it's not exactly a stake, but I won't give away too much of the story in the movie, but it's, I knew then, I was like, okay, this is working out. These things still do exist. They still are believed in, and people still act on them. So, it was strange to hear someone, this little grandmotherly lady, say, "I stabbed a corpse, and the voice of the devil came out of its mouth," and, I...
Would you like some more apple pie?
Yeah, more apple... Yeah, exactly.
What about go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's mentioned at times in the film the aspect of necromancy, and they mention necromancers, and they're not obviously connected. They're related to strigoi, but yet they apparently are people who practice or are capable of summoning them. I mean, what was your take about the act of the necromancer in this?
Well, once again, with all the whole field of the supernatural, I tend to be skeptical. So I went into the movie open-minded, wanting to listen to these stories. I felt like there hadn't been anything made that actually... We think of Transylvania as this kind of fountain of all this mystical and supernatural belief. But I had never seen a movie that actually went and filmed the place and talked to the people that believed in so many of these things. So specifically with that, I guess the problem with the idea of the strigoi, calling it just a vampire, is it acts in the capacity of kind of a ghost sometimes, what we would call a ghost, a poltergeist other times, and then it has aspects of the vampire also, or what we think of as a vampire, where it can, physically attack someone and suck the life energy out of them or the actual blood of them. This fellow in the movie was actually, I don't think we have this in the film, but he was a mortician out in the countryside. He was a really interesting guy, and there's footage of him which we weren't able to put in the movie, but he really seemed to have a lot of knowledge of these beliefs, and I know he believed in them a lot also. He apparently he went both ways on this. At first he said, I grew up and I knew this person who could communicate with the dead and communicate with spirits and strigoi, and I wanted to learn this knowledge. And then he kind of backed off of that and said, well, but it's unclean, it's nekurat, it's unclean knowledge, so I didn't really learn it. And then he would kind of tell us a story where it seemed like, well, maybe he had dabbled in these things. So yeah. It's kind of up to the viewer of the movie to figure out where this guy's coming from, but there is a belief that through all kinds of different means, whether it's fortune-telling or it's different rituals or even types of incantations or poems, that you can contact the supernatural world there and have some effect on it.
Wow.
I wonder if there's a relationship, once again basing it off of our own Western bias or stereotypes. I mean, that's just really what the word is. How this is related to the Romani population and the reputation that they have in the West for being fortune tellers and mystics, and the capacity to do things like that.
Sure. This film was about, it's difficult, sometimes it's confusing for your listeners, but the Romanians speak Romanian and live in the modern nation of Romania. Romani or Roma are what we would call gypsies, basically. And there's all different types of clans of gypsies, and they speak Roma, but then there's different variations of that language. And I think those are, the two communities have lived together for a long time and in close proximity, so I think that things have rubbed off both ways. Mm-hmm. But these stories and these ideas of the strigoi and the werewolf and the vorkalach, you can find these anywhere in the world, really. But there's certainly a concentration of them there in Transylvania, and I don't think it relies too much on the gypsy community. These were kind of beliefs. It's an interesting question, try to figure out where these things stem from. They've been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is what I would suggest. But there are some Roma in the film. Briefly, we would go into a village and you would talk to Romanians. It was strange. It's very segregated in a lot of ways still. You would reach maybe the end of the village and these are not particularly rich villages or wealthy villages. It's dirt roads, there's geese and pigs running around and everything. Sure. And then you get to the end of that village, and then you would be in the Roma or gypsy camp part of it. And they didn't really mix that much. There was this idea that you just didn't really go over and cross over that much. And, in the film, there's a Halloween night, essentially. They have kind of a Day of the Dead type thing there in Romania. We're out in one of the big graveyards and filming that night. Everybody's bringing flowers and candles and all this, and the graveyard's lit up. And there are some Roma actually on one of the tombs of their ancestors, and they're giving away wine and beer and fruit and all kinds of stuff. And it's very strange how the Roma interact with the Romanians, and that's a whole other show. There's a lot there to that.
Yeah, they're an interesting group of people. I mean, they get a lot of flack, I think, Western Europe, especially when they come through and they're not really, like you said earlier, like in Italy, they aren't really very well liked, and probably in France and England as well, I would imagine. But
sure, and the Romanians take that. And then a lot of times the Western Europeans say, "Oh, they're all just Romanians."
Right.
And so then the Romanians and Hungarians that live in Romania take offense to that. You get out into Eastern Europe and you do see how, really Europe in general, we're lucky in a lot of ways to live in America because things are newer, and we have our stereotypes and prejudices too, but those last a long, long time over there, and they're really, really ingrained.
It's about an old grudge.
Yeah.
Your
great-grandfather.
Right across the border in Serbia,
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of grudges got very violent, so...
There's this one great scene in the film it's just such a beautiful shot. And I don't know, I want to know where it was taken, first of all, but I also want to know why I didn't see more of it in the film. There looked like a lot of bats at night coming around a building.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
We just got lucky.
Okay.
I'm going to actually reveal a little secret about that shot in the film.
Okay.
So I haven't told anyone about. That was taken from the balcony of the apartment we were living in. Now, some of your listeners may or may not remember this. This was when bird flu was really big. The idea that bird flu is spreading everywhere. Now I guess we have swine flu everybody's freaked out about, but
sure.
Bird flu was scaring everybody back then. Those aren't bats, they're birds.
Oh, man, you ruined it for me. I thought they look like bats.
I know. They are in fact a lot of birds. Now,
you should have just made that up.
They may be infected with, bird flu, if that makes it scarier.
Oh, no, I think it's scary if it were bats.
Could be infected with a deadly viral infection.
Oh, man, the bats,
you
should have lied.
Scene.
You should have lied.
There may be some bats mixed in there.
There we go.
Big herd
yeah, it's totally true.
Birds.
Romania does have an awful lot of caves, I think, just as a country in general, and I don't know, maybe hang out in the caves.
On a lighter note, I have to ask this question. Did you visit Dracula's castle?
We did not. I have been to the birthplace of Dracula in Sigishwara, which is a really beautiful medieval town. That was back in 2003 when I went there. It's what's thought of as Dracula's castle is this castle outside of Brasov. The Dracula, and I'm going to have to take a moment to clarify who Dracula was, kind of.
Okay.
But that particular castle is really beautiful. It's well preserved. The guy stayed there maybe one night, maybe.
I got
so that wasn't really where Dracula stayed. It's just kind of gotten that reputation because it's in Transylvania, it's in the mountains, and it's very gothic, looks frightening.
It's Panara Castle, right? That's the one he built on top of the mountain. I may be mispronouncing it too, but.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same one. It's the one, if you ever, see anything on the History Channel or Discovery Channel, they call it Dracula's Castle.
Oh, okay.
Dracula, this is where it gets a little complicated, but I think your listeners might be interested in this aspect of it. There was a Dracula. Dracul means dragon. It also means the devil in Romanian. Dracula means the son of the dragon. So there was a king, or a ruler, I'll say king, but a ruler called Vlad Țepeș, and his father was in this order of the knights called the Order of the Dragon. This was built up to try to fight off the Turks, who were Muslims and who were invading Eastern Europe. They didn't get a lot of help from Western Europe back then, and the Turks ended up going all the way to Vienna. But
see, not much has changed. Muslims are anyway. Go ahead.
Vlad took this name Dracula, which is the son of the dragon. Now Bram Stoker, when he wrote Dracula, he never went to Transylvania. He was just sitting in the library in London. What he was doing, and this is where you get the stake through the heart and our whole idea of what a vampire is. He was reading ethnography on Transylvania, and what he did is he blended some of these beliefs that in the film Across the Forest we actually recorded. He was blending some of that, and he needed a character for his book, so he took Vlad Țepeș, or Dracula, who was a pretty he was a pretty violent ruler, but a lot of rulers were violent back then. And he took that ruler, and then he took that character, and he melded the folklore with that character. So there is a Dracula, but he wasn't, a guy who turned into a bat. He was actually a kind of historical figure.
Well, no, we're familiar with the historical figure a little bit, but that was what was the show? Oh man, the guy that goes everywhere and eats and drinks.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations. That's it. We saw his little Transylvania trip and thought it was fairly humorous because of.
It might have been the same castle that
it was. Yeah, it was kind of super cheesy. It was built for tourists, and it was just kind of the hotel he stayed at anyway. It was kind of but no, the scenery looks beautiful. You got a lot of really good shots. It just it looks like a really beautiful place to be.
It is, yeah. Now, you guys are based out in North Carolina or South Carolina?
North Carolina. Yeah, you don't play with that.
Yeah, that's fighting words.
South Carolina's that's a third world.
We don't even mention it in regular.
I'm not going to comment on that, even though I have been through both states, and I do have a bit of a preference for North Carolina.
There you
go. My friends went up to Asheville and lived there for a long time, but
your friends are hippies then. Your friends are hippies then, aren't they? Yeah, they're hippies. We know. We've got buddies in Asheville, actually.
They're kind of hippie bluegrass people. So,
well, I tell you, there's a show that if you hadn't been on, you need to get on. A buddy of mine has a program called Speaking of Strange out there. His name's Joshua P. Warren.
Yep, I talked to him last month, I think.
He beat me to you? That's awful. And I usually beat him to the good guest. What's up with that? A lot of times he calls me up and says, hey, man, you remember that guy you had on your show? And you got his number?
Anyway.
Yeah, God, it's awful. He beat me to it. Horrible. He's going to be. I'm going to have to call him. But yeah, it's a great city. Josh is a great guy, very talented ghost hunter.
Well, if you guys are in the mountains, I'm not sure exactly what part of North Carolina you are.
We're in the Triad.
It's similar to Transylvania in some ways. Whenever you have a geography that's somewhat mountainous, you get beliefs. You get all these different patterns of beliefs. So when we were traveling, we'd travel through one river valley, and we would get one definition or one idea of what the strigoi was or what a vampire was, and then, you would have to go through this pass, and you'd have to cross over the river, and all of a sudden you would get a very different take on what those things were. And I think that's, to go back to the idea of Transylvania is very beautiful. It's partly because of the mountains, but that also affects the way the folklore works and the way the beliefs work, because people will tend to live in their one little village and not really leave there. We have good roads in America, relative to a lot of the world, and they don't over there. So if you're born in a village, a lot of times you don't ever leave that much,
Yeah.
Justin, I hate to interrupt you, but we're gonna have to take our second break of the night. If you just tuned in, we're listening to Justin Blair. He is the filmmaker, one of the filmmakers of Across the Forest, acrosstheforest.com. You can check it out and buy a copy there. And tune back in here, hang with us through this break, because we're going to talk about some more of the just fascinating stories of what goes on in Transylvania. And, then we'll be telling you how to save money on an air trip there. And no, I'm kidding about the trip. But I did look into that, though, the other week, and it was surprisingly inexpensive. So you're listening to World of the Unexplained. We'll be right back in just a moment. Call us 877-SCARE-U2. We'll be back in just a minute after this. And we're back, World of the Unexplained. Tonight, our guest is Justin Blair. His website, you can visit at www.acrosstheforest.com, where you can purchase this film, and you need to purchase it, because let me tell you what, if you want something really super cool for Halloween to show your friends, to really get you in the mood, this movie right here will keep everybody glued to this thing.
This will be pretty much the top 10 as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a big Halloween lover, but I mean, it just a thing to buy.
Oh, it is. I mean,
and watch.
Not only that, you're buying a piece of history.
Yeah, you are, because I mean, the stories are told in general. The age population is a little bit.
It's going to change. I mean, you're never going to get the kind of stuff he got again.
Yeah.
Like 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be different.
And that's unfortunate.
And that's one of the reasons I hate to self-sell, which I always shamelessly self-plug. But, that's one of the reasons we went to Sleepy Hollow to do our documentary there, because of Bill. I mean, he's been the graveskeeper there for a number of years, and the stories that he has, they're not going to be there after he's gone.
So you need to record them. And I think that's that was a pretty significant point. I mean, not only were you talking about the supernatural, but you're preserving a portion of a cultural history of these people.
Yeah, there's certainly that aspect. I mean, we would travel through the villages, and we talked to some local ethnographers before we'd set out, and they would give us an idea roughly where to go. They might give us a few names, and we literally came to this one village, and we're asking for this person, and they said, she's up there. They pointed up there, and we're like, well, where exactly? And they said, she's in the graveyard. She died 2 days ago. So, a lot of these stories are running out. They're changing. I don't think they'll ever die because I think not everybody, but the idea of the supernatural is worldwide. It's in America. It's in Eastern Europe, China, wherever you want to be. But they're changing, and a lot of these stories, the younger people, especially in the cities, it's good in a way. Things are developing and becoming more modern, but you would go into villages, and now they have television. They're allowed to have satellite television. They weren't, during communism, they have one television channel with the dictator on, most of the time.
Yeah.
Government TV.
Yeah.
Broadcasting their glories of, the socialist revolution.
They would get, the problem with it is, they're sitting there watching MTV, and the younger kids are kind of trying to emulate, Eminem or whoever it is, and I'm sitting there, listening to these stories that are hundreds of years old, and, these old traditions, and then MTV's sometimes over in the other room, and I'm thinking, well, there are good and bad aspects of kind of the westernization of the place, but the stories on this movie, if you're interested in vampires, if you're interested in werewolves, there's stories about forest spirits, also stories about something similar to UFO abductions. If you're interested in those things, you really want to know more about where kind of the vampire legend, the vampire mythos came from, then this is a good movie to take a look at, because it's really the wellspring of a lot of our whole belief in vampires, basically.
And there was another point, I just thought of it now, but with the advent of satellite TV, with the advent of cultural exchange and openness to the world, a lot of times these stories inadvertently maybe sort of like a game of Chinese whispers, where you say one thing and then 10 people later it becomes something
Telephone.
different. Yeah. Well, I call it Chinese whispers, but I don't know where
but
I came
I think
up.
it's something
So they're
in
pure.
everybody, that even though I'm a skeptic, about the supernatural in a lot of ways, there's this point in all of us that, however it manifests, whether it might be in certain religious beliefs or things we call the supernatural or folklore or beliefs in vampires, it's everywhere. And I was talking to a younger person who told me not to, she's like, there's no point in even going out in the villages. These people, they're uneducated. They don't know what they're talking about, this and that. And I said, well, yeah, I think it's, even if you don't, you have to put that aside and actually listen to the stories, and you'll get something from these stories. And she said, she was being very skeptical, very scientific-minded. And then all of a sudden, she turns around and says, well, now if you really want to film something, you should go out into the hills around the city because people are being abducted by aliens. And I said, I was just talking to a lady in a village, 24 hours ago, and she was telling me a story about this spinning, wheel and how it would come down from the sky and terrorize people and, and take people away. And you're telling the same story. You're just using different language to explain it. You're using the language of technology to explain it, and that lady has a different language to explain it. So, the stories will change and transmute, but they're always going to be there, I think, in a way.
Well, that's a good point about you have a different vocabulary to express things now.
No, can we give them the? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was done with that comment.
Well, I'm good at sensing this stuff usually.
Yeah, I really was done.
Can we tell our listeners where they can go? I mean, or is that just something you give to the people that you book? That book you on the show, as far as like a little, I saw a little snippet online before we actually talked. Is that something that you want people to see, or is that something you want to keep kind of on the down low?
Well, the trailer is at the website at acrosstheforest.com. We made, about 6 months ago, we put together a little 6-minute video, essentially kind of a a longer trailer. That was on Current TV, which I think is a Google-owned thing. We put that up there, but if you watch the trailer on acrosstheforest.com, you can also check out a photo essay on there that kind of gives you an idea what these different supernatural creatures are about, and then of course you can always actually buy the DVD right from the website. So
that's right. Now how much is the DVD?
$9.99, and then the shipping and handling, I think it ends up being like $14.80, and we ship it anywhere in the world for the same price. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is completely
under $20, guys. You got to get this for Halloween. Get it?
Region free, so if you have listeners in Europe or other countries or Asia,
it'll play on everything.
They can play it on whatever they want.
That is awesome.
That's some NTSC, PAL, it doesn't matter.
That's some good thinking about that, because you wanted to get this thing out. You want people to see it, and like I said, it's worth seeing.
Go ahead and give the number, Trent. Get some calls in here, guys. I mean, we know you're listening, so call us, man. If you've got questions for Justin, now is the time, my brother. Pick up the phone. Don't be shy.
It's 1-877-722-7382, and if you add letters to those numbers,
877 scare you too. Scare like the band.
Like
you
the
two.
band.
Scare the letter U, the number 2.
The local number is 336-996-1596, and if you're more of a typey rather than talky kind of person, then you can email us at worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
So it'll take you longer to type than it will just to dial
will.
the
You
number,
just dial
man.
it. Yeah, 30 seconds.
Don't be shy, guys. Yeah.
Anyway,
press 1. I think on the menu. I think you press 1 and it brings you to our call screener. So, there you go. Tell me about. I want to come back, obviously, to Across the Forest because that's why you're here. But I did see something. I don't remember if it was on the DVD, if it was in the promotional materials. Something you gave me about a new adventure, a new film that you guys are going on an African quest. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That's upcoming, or have you already gone, or what's the status with that?
That's still upcoming. We've been. So, like I said, it's very possible, and you guys know, I think you've produced your own material also, to make your own documentaries. It doesn't take a lot of money, but you do have to allot a great deal of time to it. So
sure.
We've been promoting this film right now, and one of our concepts is to go over to Western Africa, where the religion of voodoo still exists over there in this Benin and Togo and parts of Ghana. It's actually an official religion still. And so we kind of wanted to go over there and explore a little bit of the supernatural in Western Africa. But
you ever been there?
Never been to Africa. I've been to Asia, been to China, and Eastern Europe.
Let me give you a word of advice before you go.
Okay.
Listen to our show. We've got a podcast that we did with the guy that did the true story of the serpent and the rainbow for National Geographic. What was his name, Trent?
Wade Davis. His name's
Wade Davis. You can go to wotu.libsyn.com. Check that out. There's a part where he lights himself on fire.
It's crazy.
I mean, really, it's all about the voodoo, and all that stuff. I mean, he is. It's just a really good 2-hour interview with him about his adventures there.
The only other difference, of course, is that's Haitian voodoo, which obviously incorporates more of Western Catholicism, maybe. And,
okay. I don't know.
I'm just making a guess. West African voodoo is probably a little more pure.
Okay.
In a sense.
Or listen to that before you go, because there's some scary stuff going on there, too.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Sounds like a really interesting show. Definitely will.
But it's just as interesting as this one. So,
anyway, but that's upcoming.
So that's when is that? Do you have a date set?
Oh, no, we don't have a date set.
Okay.
It's just, whose idea was that? Was this yours or Matthew's?
We went, while we were pressing this DVD, we were thinking of new documentaries to make, and we went over a couple of different ideas, and finally we settled on, we were considering actually going to Uganda and doing something up in northern Uganda, and then I was reading more on Africa. I have a history degree, and I tended to study more of the Middle East and Europe. I really didn't know much about Africa, so started reading more about the folklore and the beliefs, and all of a sudden I realized, well, voodoo is still actually like a state religion in these countries, and I thought, well, that's the place to go and to check these things out.
You have a little more official sanctioning too. I mean, the fact is, you want to. It makes them feel like they, it looks good, because they're sanctioning the religion, so you're going to maybe get government support and
where's
advantages.
Where's your history degree from?
UF.
I mean, what school? UF?
University of Florida.
UF. I thought you said US for me. Yeah, UF. I'm familiar with UF. Are you doing the master's there, or was it just undergraduate?
That was undergrad in history, and then after I came back from Romania making this film, I went up to Russian East European Institute at Indiana University and did some Romanian language training there and started a master's degree and did not finish that, so now I'm down in northern Texas.
So now my next question is, are your folks just loaded or what? What's going on here? Are you? I mean, you're funding all this yourself, I'm assuming, aren't you?
Yeah, like I said before, no, certainly not. I delivered pizza.
There we go.
To make money, to make the
I respect you so much more now.
Bakery. It's very possible, and anybody who's listening, I always like to try to stress this. The cameras don't cost that much anymore. Decent, we were using a 3-chip and a 1-chip camera. They weren't the best cameras, but, you can get high-definition cameras now fairly cheap.
Under $5,000.
You can get a plane ticket fairly cheap. You just have to have the drive to save your money and to go do it. It's not a way to get rich. I mean, making documentaries is certainly not the way to get rich, but...
Unless you're Michael Moore.
Well, he's done a little bit better.
Yeah.
But, it can be done, and we didn't have any grants. We didn't have any outside assistance to make the movie. Matthew had already had some of the camera gear. He was a more technical kind of guy than I am, and we really just bought some plane tickets, packed some bags, and tried to research and learn as much as we could. And if you go out in the field to talk to people, wherever it is, if you're polite and if you're courteous, people are really willing to talk. People want to share their stories about the supernatural. I've found that there, at least, for sure.
It's just amazing.
It really is.
And awesome. I respect you so much more for being the pizza guy. I mean, no, really, I do. I mean, it takes to actually save the money, and you're not riding on someone else's buck, to do it. I mean,
sure. Well, you have to have jobs. If you want to do stuff like this, you have to have jobs that you can go in and do, and then leave again. So,
do you want to teach history? I mean, at some point in time, do you want to hang this up and say, you know what, I want to teach history at college, or I mean, what are your plans?
I'm applying actually to teach English overseas in Japan here. The deadline is coming up pretty soon, so I've always had an interest in languages and always history, so I don't know if I'll end up going back and finishing the master's degree, but I've found that I tend to be a generalist, and generalists don't always do well in academia. They stress specialization, and I guess in documentary filmmaking I found something where if you want to understand a decent amount about a large range of subjects, I think that tends to help documentary filmmaking. Somebody who wants to go in and learn about this particular subject and then move on to a different subject. So, voodoo and vampires, they don't actually have a lot in common.
Come on, Scooby-Doo meets Dracula and the Voodoo Prince.
I might try to write a thesis paper on that, see how...
Yeah, go for it. And actually, if you go to Japan, I mean, there's all sorts of paranormal stuff there.
Definitely. Lots of paranormal in Japan.
Well, see, you kind of put your thumb there on my secret motive there. I was, while teaching English over there, I would like to do some interviews there also, especially in the north of Japan. There's a different people called I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, Anu people.
Yeah, they live in Hokkaido, the large island north of Japan.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think there's still a lot of interesting beliefs up there that I'd like to get recorded, so...
Well, that's very awesome. Well, listen, we're going to take our last break, Justin, for the night. Hang on with us for just a second. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. I don't know what's wrong with you people for not calling, because it's bothering me, because this is one of the best guests we've had in a while. I was really excited when I first got the email, and I didn't request this. I didn't know it was out there. He sent me this email, and we were like, whoa, this is cool. And I got so excited, I think I left you 2 voicemails. And I was like, man, what's up? He calls it, he emails me, and I can't even get a call back, and I was like...
Matthew actually had a kind of a pseudonym for me there. He was doing a lot of the contacting, so I'm going to, since he's not on the line, I can squarely blame him for that.
Oh, cool. Very, very good. Very good, yeah. But, I was like, that sucks, we got to get these guys on, and now I'm getting ignored here. And I was like, this is probably the biggest thing that we've had in a long time. We have to have this, and it was very cool that we finally did get together on it and get a date out there, especially in October, man,
I mean, how...
This is what our show's about.
How perfectly timed.
But hang tight with us, Justin. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. We're going to be back in just a little bit with Justin Blair for the final chapter of tonight's show. And you guys, if you want to call, now's the time to call 877-722-7382. That's 1-877-SCARE-U2, toll free in the U.S. and Canada. We'll be right back after this.
We're still here. Are you?
Right here with you.
World of the Unexplained. We have Justin Blair.
Last time we're going to give these numbers, folks.
Yeah.
Last time.
Of Across the Forest at the website. What was the website again?
AcrossTheForest.com.
Yeah, I'm bad with strings of words put together. 1-877-722-7382. Locally 336-996-1596.
And let me tell you, I'm throwing a Halloween party at my house this year. I don't know if I told you that. Oh, that's right. I didn't invite you. No, I'm kidding. You're invited. I'm throwing one here, and this movie is going to be playing nonstop the entire night on my flat screen television. The entire night.
Sounds good.
And it's. I'm just going to keep it rolling. So people come in at different times, they'll see different things. I'm telling you, this is such a great film, and it may even start one of those traditions in your household. I mean, I'm serious because. These stories, like we've been talking about, these stories have been captured on film. This is a third world country in a lot of ways. When you watch this, you see, horses pulling carts in this thing. This is the way these people live, and to relate their true to life stories to you. You've got Grandma serving Justin apple pie, talking about stabbing a vampire to death. You can't beat that. You can't get that. This is real, and you can't get that anywhere else. And I think it's just an amazing thing. That him and his friend Matthew have captured on video for posterity's sake. Anyway, so AcrossTheForest.com, $10 or $9.99, excuse me, plus the shipping. What do you say, $15 total?
$14.80.
Okay, so under $15, you can own.
You could be in American Samoa.
You could.
You know how much it's going to be?
$14.80. Is that right? $14.80?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Cape Town, South Africa.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world. If you're listening tonight from the UK, from anywhere, Irkutsk,
Sakhalin Island.
I
don't know if they have.
Trent knows everything about every place in the world except for here.
I'm good with geography.
So, Chicago, Boston, New York, I know a lot of you guys listen to our podcast later because you can't catch the live show. Actually, quite a lot of you listen to the podcast. The subscription is stupidly huge. So if you're listening to this and you're hearing it for the first time and it's coming up on Halloween, you need to go to this website and buy this. You will not regret it. I don't endorse many things on this show as hard as I've endorsed
you
this.
never really...
Usually I'm just like, buy it, whatever. Here's the website. This is good, whatever. Yeah. But I'm really endorsing this. This is a piece of history. You got to own it. If you're into any kind of vampire folklore at all, if you've read any of the Montague Summers stuff and really get into this stuff, this is something that's going to just add a tremendous flair to your collection.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with that said, I'm gonna quit pitching it like Billy Mays over here, and we'll get back to it. But Justin, what about shooting this whole thing, this whole experience for you was, what was the cumulative thing? What was the best part of the whole thing, or anything that made you stop and think of something differently, or tell us something about that.
Sure. I think you touched on it earlier. A lot can be learned from just listening to other people's perspective on things. We were talking over the break, you're a conservative paranormal show. That's something pretty different from a lot of other shows out there. And, I may not be labeled as conservative. I wouldn't be labeled as liberal either, but it's important to have a kind of a dialogue and to listen to other people's opinions on things. And going over there, listening to these people, who lived out in the country all their life, they may not have had much education. They still had a lot of wisdom, and they had a lot of they had something to say. We captured on the film. And if you're interested in these kinds of things, to get down to the root of it, to get down to the root of the whole vampire legend, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give people from that area a space to actually tell their stories, because there's still, they suffered so long under communism. They didn't have an outlet. They didn't have a chance to talk. And there's still a lot that's misunderstood about Eastern Europe and people there. And so, if you have an interest in Eastern Europe, or you're just interested in the supernatural, I think this film works, because I had never seen anyone from Transylvania talk before. So I think, if nothing else, I got to preserve some of these stories and for people to take a look at. And when making it, I didn't put my own perspective in there. Matthew didn't put his perspective in there.
That's true.
We didn't want to. It's different. We didn't provide narration. We didn't try to tell the person who's watching the movie what to think. So, your listeners probably are people who want to make up their own mind. This is a film where you watch it, you have to listen to these stories and kind of make up your own mind on what you think about it.
In other words, folks, he didn't try to Michael Moore it with a lot of political dogma that's wrong. So,
or anybody, for
or
that
anybody,
matter.
yeah.
It was a film. Here's my agenda, and I'm going to use you to fulfill my agenda. You're not doing that at all. You're saying, here's the people, let them talk. They don't have an agenda.
We're just going to sit back.
And I think that's the beauty of it. And I wish a lot more documentaries would be like that.
Now that train footage you were talking about earlier, where the old state man kind of came to you and said you can't film here, was that the one in the film where it shows you guys kind of going back through the cars through the aisle?
No, we ignored that. I mean, when we got on other trains, we just that was actually that particular scene is a little bit of kind of a hidden reference to the book Dracula, where it's someone from the West traveling over into Transylvania, and we're doing it in a modern way by train. And in the book and in the movies, he looks outside and sees these green lights, and as they enter Transylvania. So we turned the night shot on in the camera and kind of did a little ode to that idea. But the state man didn't come down on us except that one time. So.
Well, another book that people might be interested in is Les Klinger's unabridged and annotated version of Dracula. He's actually another terrible communist lawyer like myself. He's even worse, though. He does wills and estates. That's just evil law. But he wrote a book here that I'm actually holding in my hand, and it talks about, as you were talking about, how Stoker used different, he never actually left and went there. He just used different ethnographies and the like, and he gives references to them, and he actually provides some of the text of them, too.
Dracula's
so it's interesting.
Like a composite character, as you were talking about before. Valley A and Valley B and River Valley C, have three distinct perspectives of what a strigoi or Virgulagus or whatever, is. And Stoker just basically cherry-picked to create this composite image that we know in the West as the vampire or Dracula.
Going back to the werewolf thing, if you don't mind, Trent, you did, Justin, you were, the one story that I remember about the werewolf, it was kind of more like I think it also played to not only this could be a creature, a werewolf, but it also kind of played, it played on a different level too, saying, well, this is kind of part of it, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, there's one of the stories we start the film out with, and then we end it with. He refers to it as a strigoi. The guy we were interviewing was a hunter, a trapper. He lived up in the mountains, and this was a story that had happened. He had actually witnessed the person who had been mauled by this animal. And we had some illustrations in the film by a really great artist over in Romania. Flaviu is an illustration of this in the film, and he was a child when he saw this guy coming back, and his face, half his face was torn off by this wolf. And there are still wolves that live up in the Carpathians, but this one in particular, it's a weird story. It's kind of a story about revenge, that this person gets murdered, and the idea is that the soul of that person can go into an animal, essentially. And, you get that in a sense from Dracula, the idea that, shape-shifting, you can change from a human aspect into an animal aspect. So there's that part of it to the story. But the werewolf isn't as strong in Transylvania. It tends to be something called a prikolich, which is actually like a human who gets turned into a wild dog. So it's not exactly a wolf, but and we have some stories about the prikolich in there also. But that character tends to be not as fierce as what we think of as a werewolf, but actually kind of a more pathetic. A person who's been cursed and has to just wander around in the form of a dog or a wild dog at night. That's
interesting. We're almost out of time, but I mean it's an interesting point because there's a really ancient Greek story about the what we would consider a werewolf. The sheep get killed, and also in the Greek,
I wrote a paper.
Vrikolakas, isn't that the word?
Right, yeah, Vrikolakas. I wrote a paper about that in my ancient Greek class in college. Yeah,
really?
Great, because that's exactly it's such a good point. It's great to talk to people who have that knowledge, because the word vrikolac in Romanian probably comes from the Vrikolakas, which is that idea of the Greek werewolf.
I was kind of curious about that.
Well, Justin, but before we go, and we've got very limited time here, did you see anything supernatural while you were there? That's my question.
The short answer is that I did not. I put myself behind the camera and I let people talk about their experiences. I don't believe that you can go out and capture ghosts on film. So the way I think that you have to capture these stories and these ideas, and if you like the reality of them, of the supernatural, is through people telling stories. In the end, I don't think you're ever going to make Ghostbusters isn't going to come to life. I don't think you're going to build a machine that can do this.
It does on the Wii, brother. It does on the Wii. Anyway, and my final question to you, are there, I know that Trent and his wife went up on their honeymoon to Massachusetts, Salem. I had a good friend there that had a little tour up there from some of the haunting stuff, and they had an ancient vampire hunting kit there with a stake and some different things in there.
Really curious. And
so, did you see any of this, any kind of vampire hunting tools or silver bullets or anything that would fit into the mythos of the American mythos of what these things are?
In a sense, the story about stabbing the strigoi, it's a very Romanian story because she didn't use a stake. She used a spike from a weaving machine used to weave hemp, and she didn't use a hammer. She had to use a fire log. So,
sure. But I mean,
the tools changed when you start crossing boundaries.
Yeah, so basically, you don't need to buy them, Scott. You just
get them. You pick them up there. You're in the village. You're like, hey, man, I need to kill this strigoi. Help me
Talk
out,
to
brother.
the weaver. Oh, I need that
I need that pin.
Thing.
Yeah.
And then go get a piece of firewood. It's
easy.
easy.
Do-it-yourself strigoi slaying kit.
That's exactly.
Do it
you
yourself.
have to work with what you have sometimes. So.
Do it yourself strigoi slaying.
Don't be fooled by the TV.
That's awesome.
Don't be fooled by those announcements. Vampire. You don't need it.
Okay? Say that again, real quick.
The do-it-yourself strigoi slaying kit.
Yeah, I'm going to use that soundbite for a commercial later. That's awesome. All right, man. Justin, it has been a pleasure. We want to have you back. Maybe next time you can bring Matthew with you.
Hey, that sounds good. It's been great talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
Great talking to you,
Likewise.
too. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. And that was Justin Blair, www.acrosstheforest.com. Now I'm going to answer an email question here from one of our buddies out there.
Yeah.
I'm missing something. Where's the URL to subscribe to the podcast? You should have called. I'd have told you. It's the same one. Your collection goes to 2008, and that's because we haven't posted anything since 2008. And that's just sick, isn't it? That's terrible. We've got the episodes here, and we have them. No, we do. I mean, they're on they're on one of those little 140 meg little it's plugged right in there. Yeah, we haven't edited them. We've been really lazy. And,
working / going to school.
Yeah, he goes to school. I work 70 hours a week as a lawyer, and then the other guy goes to school too. So that's where we're at. It's coming though. Dee and I are getting together this weekend for all you guys to let you know this. We're getting together this or is it maybe next weekend? Either this weekend or next weekend. We're going to edit down last week's show and this week's show, and we're going to start from there, and we're going to build forward because we've noticed that also the programs, since we used to put these up, have changed. And so a lot of stuff's changed. We got new computers in the studio. Thanks to our friend in Atlanta for providing us with a free computer that we broadcast from now. We really appreciate that.
And I was going to point out also that
runs our software for the program.
We're on Twitter. We'll be on Twitter pretty soon.
We're on to Wo2 Radio, I think is what it is. You can tweet us there, sign up and follow us.
We got MySpace pages. They
hasn't
are
been
already
updated
there.
in years.
And Facebook is coming. And if you get on our mailing list, it's on the website somewhere. I haven't seen it, but for the semi-annual newsletter, which is just really as soon as I can put one out. So those are all of our multimedia tentacles that we stretch out into the ether.
Dry it up, Jay Scott, and get them out there for me to listen to during my commute. Yeah, your commute. Yeah, I remember this. This is from a listener. He's got a heck of a commute in the morning.
That's right.
What a better place to put us, in the car with you during the morning commute
As
or
we
the
sit
evening
there
commute.
and talk away.
Banter away about our craziness.
Yeah.
Guys, as always, it's been fun. Thanks for listening tonight, guys. We appreciate it. We'll be back next Monday night again with another great guest. I don't know who it is because I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I promise you October is just a spectacular comeback month, and we got more for you after that.
Could be Rocktober.
I've got some crazy, crazy stuff to announce. You remember the Monster Squad?
Yep.
I got the guy from the Monster Squad,
come
Stephen
on.
King Rules. Andre Gower's coming up. That's not in October, but that's coming soon,
Yep.
guys. So I got
Nice.
the email today. All right, you're listening to World of the Unexplained. Jay Scott.
This is Tread Lackey, T-Dog. We're coming to you from Kernersville, North Carolina, a small town where we talk about big things.
See you guys next week.